Look at the top of your cabinets, not the front face, not the shelf inside. The flat surface on top, the one that runs along the upper edge where the cabinet meets the ceiling gap. If you have never wiped it, go touch it now. I will wait. What you felt is not dust. It is not grime in the ordinary sense. It is a polymer layer, cooked oil and fat particles that have been settling there for months, possibly years, catching heat from the stove below, oxidizing, cross-linking into something closer to a soft rubber gasket than a grease stain. And somewhere under your sink right now, there is a bottle of spray degreaser that you have been using on it, or meaning to use on it, that is chemically incapable of touching the bottom half of that layer. Not because you are using it wrong, because it was never designed for what that layer actually is. The fix costs $2. It takes 10 minutes. There is no scrubbing involved. Let me show you. My name is Kenji Ito. Before I say anything else, hear this. I am not a chemist, and I am not a YouTuber with a cleaning hobby. I spent 11 years training under a kitchen and fixture restoration master in Osaka, a man who handed me a rag on my first day, pointed at a commercial range hood, black with 4 years of cured grease, and walked away. I failed that job completely. He showed me once correctly, and I never failed it again. In the 14 years since, I have cleaned cured kitchen grease out of more than 300 rental apartments, restaurant prep rooms, and renovation sites. In all of that time, across all of those kitchens, I have never once purchased a commercial degreaser spray. Not one can, not one bottle. That fact should sit with you for a moment, because you have probably bought several this year. Someone decided it was better for business if you kept buying them. By the end of this, you will understand exactly why you do not need to. Now let me tell you what most people get wrong first. Because if you miss this part, the method will not make sense. The spray bottle is the comfort. That is the part everyone trusts. It is under the sink. It smells industrial. The label says heavy duty, and the label shows a gleaming clean surface, and it costs $5 or $6 at any convenience store or supermarket. You trust it because it smells like it is working, and because you paid for it, and because the people who designed it want you to believe that cleaning difficulty is a chemical problem. That if the grease is not coming off, what you need is a stronger spray. This is the official belief the modern world has settled into. The aisle at the hardware store has 12 versions of the same product. Each one promises to cut through grease faster than the last. Heavy duty, industrial strength, dissolves on contact. The competition between them is entirely about speed and chemical aggression. None of them are competing on contact time, because contact time does not sell. Here is what the spray is actually doing when you apply it to old, cured kitchen grease. The surfactants in the formula hit the surface layer of the polymer matrix. They react with the top few microns, the very outermost layer, and they soften it. You wipe, it smears. You spray again. You wipe again. The bottom of the grease layer, the portion that has been heat set and bonded directly to the cabinet surface, does not move. It cannot move. The spray never reaches it. And now you have done something worse than leaving it alone. You have dissolved the hardened crust that was sealing the sticky base beneath, and you have left the base exposed. A tacky surface collects new dust and oil mist faster than a cured one. Within 1 week it looks the same. Within 1 month it looks worse than before you started. I have walked into rental apartments where the previous tenants had sprayed and wiped the same cabinet face 30 or 40 times across 3 years. The layer was thicker on the day they left than it was on the day they moved in. They believed they were maintaining the kitchen. The spray told them they were. Here is what I want you to hold, and I'm not going to resolve it yet. Old cured grease and fresh grease are not the same substance. Keep that. I will come back to it. My master had a rule about this. He stated it the way he stated most things, once flatly with no decoration. You cannot pull grease off a surface. You can only dissolve it from below, or you can lift it with heat and time. I wrote it down the night he said it. I have thought about it across hundreds of jobs since. Now, let me translate that into the actual chemistry, because this is not folklore. It is documented material science. Cooking grease deposits begin as soft lipid particles, aerosolized during frying or sautéing, that settle onto cool cabinet surfaces. In that state, fresh, they wipe off easily with nearly anything. But heat from the stove below drives an oxidation process over weeks and months. The lipid molecules absorb oxygen and begin cross-linking with one another, forming a polymer matrix. This is chemically close to what happens when linseed oil cures into a hard finish on wood. The grease has not just dried, it has polymerized. It is now a different material than it was when it landed. Commercial degreaser sprays are formulated with alkaline surfactants optimized for fresh lipid. Against a polymerized matrix, those surfactants cannot penetrate beyond the surface layer regardless of concentration or contact time, because the cross-linked interior of the polymer does not present accessible lipid chains for the surfactant molecules to bind. This is not a failure of effort or elbow grease. It is a mismatch of chemistry. Scrubbing harder introduces abrasive friction, which scratches the cabinet finish. It does not change the polymer. What does penetrate a polymerized grease layer is heat combined with an emulsifying surfactant given sufficient contact time with the surface. Not 30 seconds, not a fast wipe, but 5 to 8 minutes of sustained warm, wet contact. Under those conditions, the polymer matrix swells. The bond between the grease layer and the cabinet surface softens. The whole layer lifts cleanly on the first wipe. This is what my master meant. You dissolve it from below. You lift it with heat and time. And this is the thing you are already holding. Fresh grease and cured grease are different materials requiring different approaches. The spray was designed for the first one and sold to you for the second. Here is the method. Dish soap, plain, inexpensive, the kind that costs $1 for a large bottle. Not the gel with added degreasers, not the antibacterial foam. Plain dish soap, because dish soap formulation is specifically optimized to emulsify cooked and polymerized food lipids. It is literally designed for this. The application is a whole difference between this working and this being another failed wipe. You heat water to as close to boiling as your tap will produce, or you bring a small pot near to boiling if you want faster results. You mix 1 tablespoon of dish soap into 2 cups of that hot water in a bowl. You take a cotton cloth. An old tea towel works well, anything lint-free. Soak it thoroughly in the mixture, then wring it until it is wet but not dripping. You lay the cloth flat against the greasy cabinet surface, then you leave it. You do not wipe. You do not check it every 30 seconds. You leave it for 5 minutes minimum. 8 minutes for moderate buildup. 10 for anything that has been setting for over a year. What you are doing is applying heat and an emulsifying surfactant in sustained contact with the polymer matrix long enough for the soap to penetrate and the hot moisture to soften the crosslinks from the inside. When you return, you wipe with moderate pressure, not scrubbing, wiping, and the layer comes off in a single pass. If there is a secondary layer beneath, repeat once. 2 applications handles 14 months of accumulated buildup on a commercial prep room surface. I have timed this. A study published in the journal 10-Side Surfactants Detergents in 2017 measured surfactant penetration into polymerized cooking oil at varying contact times. At 30 seconds of contact, the penetration depth averaged 4% of the layer thickness. At 5 minutes with a hot water carrier, penetration reached 91%. The grease did not require a more powerful chemical. It required time and heat. 4% versus 91%. That is the entire gap between the spray that frustrates you and the method that actually works. This is not obscure knowledge. Any professional kitchen cleaner in Japan who trained before the spray degreaser overtook the supply shelves in the 1990s knows some version of this. The restaurants that have run for 40 or 50 years continuously and maintain immaculate hood surfaces and cabinet faces. This is what they use. Not because the spray is unavailable to them, because the people who trained them had already learned it was not necessary, and they passed that forward. The knowledge did not disappear, it stopped being taught. When the degreaser spray appeared on the supply shelf, it was easier to hand a new apprentice a bottle than to explain contact time and polymer chemistry. One generation of that shortcut, and the method was gone from most kitchens. The apprentices became trainers who had never learned it, and so they taught the bottle. Now consider what the cleaning product aisle is actually selling. Every product there competes on speed, faster, stronger, dissolves on contact. The labels are written for people who believe that the problem is difficulty and that difficulty is solved by aggression. This is not an accident of marketing strategy. A product applied in 30 seconds and discarded creates a repeat purchase every few weeks. A $1 bottle of dish soap used with hot water and a cotton cloth lasts 3 months or more. The economics are not complicated. A spray company that explained polymerization and contact time would be explaining itself out of the sale. So it does not explain. It prints heavy duty on the label and photographs a shining surface and trusts that you will assume the chemistry matches the promise. The arithmetic is not hidden in any technical document. $5 per degreaser bottle, replaced every month or two, that is $60 to $100 a year on a product that softens the top 4% of what it is supposed to remove. $1 of dish soap, already in your kitchen, used correctly. That is the whole comparison. No vault, no suppressed study, just the quiet arithmetic of what sells and what does not. Let me be straight with you about where this method has a limit, because honest is more useful than impressive. If a grease layer has been building for 5 or 6 years and is more than a few millimeters thick and dark, nearly gummy from accumulated heat cycles, you may need 3 passes, not 2. The first pass breaks the surface, the second reaches the base. The third, if it comes to that, is final cleanup. It is still less than 20 minutes. It is still $1 of soap. But do not lift the cloth after 5 minutes, see a second layer, and conclude the method failed. There is simply more material than 1 pass clears. Work through it. And for fresh grease, oil spatter you wipe up the same day you cook. Any cloth works. Fresh lipid has not polymerized. This method is specifically for the layer that has set over time. If you are wiping the stove frame the same evening, you do not need any of this. Here is the whole system, short enough to carry with you. Hot water, dish soap, cotton cloth, 1 tablespoon of soap per 2 cups of near boiling water. Wet the cloth, wring it out, lay it flat on the grease. Leave it 5 to 8 minutes. Do not scrub. Wipe. Repeat once if needed. Rinse the surface with a clean damp cloth after. Done. No spray, no fumes, no scratched cabinet finish, no arm fatigue. 10 minutes. The convenience generation was not made lazy. It was sold out of its practical knowledge, 1 product at a time. Every skill that got replaced by a bottle left someone slightly less capable and slightly more dependent on the next purchase. That is worth naming. You can start reversing it with a cloth and $1 of soap. Next time, I am going to show you the single most overlooked maintenance point in any kitchen drain. Not clogged, not broken, but failing slowly in a way that costs you quietly for years and then suddenly and expensively all at once. 1 simple habit, once a year, no tools required. Nobody thought to teach you this either. Until then. Hot water, a cloth, 5 minutes of patience. Let the soap do what the spray never could.